Good morning. Let me get that off. Here real quick. Wait till everybody shows up. This is Thursday chat session, Christian Perspective. We're going to call the Faith Filter. And I'm Joel Fieri. So I am here every Thursday for you. And we'll wait until some people come in to the comments. And today you're going to talk a little bit about a couple of different things that are obviously happening that are challenging everybody, not just Christians, but everybody in the country and in our society. And it's something that, as I always say on the show, something we need to talk about because when things like this happen, we tend to stay out of it, or we tend to think, it's not affecting me right now. But eventually when it does come to affect everyone, we realize we haven't talked about it. So a little bit, I'm going to delve into a little bit of what's happening in Minnesota, although Ben and I will be talking about that tomorrow. So I don't want to steal too much of the thunder there, but I want to talk about how that relates to history, not necessarily our Civil War, but civil wars in general. And a lot of people are talking about America beginning the Civil War. People have been talking about a Civil War really since, before Trump got reelected. It's just, I don't know if it's the natural lifestyle of a society, of a country. But eventually the law of entropy, right? Things tend to wear out. And who's here? Lucas is here. As always, morning. AC is here, as usual, morning. What I'm going to do is play a couple clips that kind of illustrate and related to something that happened in Minnesota this week. But the first one, this is a scene from The Godfather 2. And Michael is in Cuba before the Castro Revolution, and he's driving down the street. So I'll just show it from this part.
Estamos deteniendo personas. Dentro de un momento le daremos paso. Dentro de 15 o 20 minutos.
He said that they're making an arrest, and in a few months he let us through.
Ciao. E niente, qua chi schifosi banditi stanno facendo la pulizia.
¡El 26 de julio! ¡Que mueran los banditianos! ¡Viva Fidel!
Okay. So in that scene, Michael's there right before the Cuban Revolution, obviously. And if you missed it, they're making an arrest, and one of the people they're arresting breaks out, takes a grenade that he's hiding, and again tackles the head of the guard and kills him, committing suicide at the same time. So, and with, I'm going to show another clip later on where they're talking about this, and I want to relate it to something that happened in Minnesota, like I said. So I'm going to put up the follow-up scene to this, and where Michael and Hyman Roth are talking down in Cuba, and Hyman Roth is his rival, obviously. And if you haven't seen the movie, they're trying to talk about how they can get Cuba as kind of a mafia country of their own. But meanwhile, this communist revolution is going on, and they're trying to figure out if that's going to be a threat or not. And so they're at Hyman Roth's villa, and Michael is going to bring this up. And I think it's pertinent to what happened this week.
I saw an interesting thing happen today. A rebel was being arrested by the military police. And rather than be taken alive, he exploded a grenade he had hidden in his jacket. He killed himself, and he took a captain of the command with him. Right, Johnny?
Rebels, they're lunatics.
Maybe so. But it occurred to me,
The soldiers are paid to fight. The rebels aren't.
What does that tell you?
They can win.
Okay. So they could win. So that's the contradiction is the soldiers who are paid to fight and versus the revolutionaries that aren't. And this man was willing to give up his life. He was that committed to his cause. And then obviously, if you didn't see it, the parallel that happened this week is something that we would just to ourselves, and everybody seems to think this woman was stupid or what, but I want to show, and I won't show the video because it's a little shocking, but this woman here, and what she did is she picked up a flashbang grenade and it exploded in her hand. And this is a picture of her running, screaming for her mother and falling to the ground, and people going up to her. And so that it just reminded me of that scene from The Godfather, where this, it's not an exact parallel, because what Hyman Roth is talking about, one of the questions he asked is, what does that tell you? That, and Michael says, well, the soldiers are paid to fight and the protesters are not. That's not the case with the people like this woman in Minnesota. These are paid protesters. Okay. And they're trained, but they've given their lives to this. So for a woman to do that, even if you're getting paid, if someone paid me to just go out and protest, that'd be one thing, but I wouldn't pick up a grenade that someone thrown unless she really is that ignorant of what that device does. Maybe she just thought it was a smoke grenade or I don't know. When you're a little kid, I know people who've blown off their hands from fireworks just because they were dumb kids. Okay. But that's how committed she is to the job she's doing, even though she's probably most likely one of the paid protesters. So, Godfather 1 and 2 are some of my favorite movies. You're certainly not alone. Obviously, they're considered the greatest movies of all time, probably the greatest movie series of all time, technically speaking, or in the sense of how well it's done, not necessarily in the sense of success. Because, Batista was in the mob and corporations. Yeah. So, you won't find me a browser of that magnitude. Well, no, you're not I trust you're not a paid leftist agitator. So, and Cuba needed Che Guevara as the enforcer. Well, yeah. And that's where it eventually went. See, and that's what Michael's point was. These people are committed. There's not a lot of them. And later on, Hyman goes, Cuba's had radicals for as long as I've been here. That was his next line. But the point was, that's how committed the protesters were, and the soldiers and the government wasn't nearly as committed as that. And that's all it takes for a civil war to start and a revolution to happen. And it's a really stark picture. If you saw the video of this woman running, who basically shattered her hand, here's a good point. It's not protest, it's riots, right? And that's what civil war turns into. It goes from protest into actual violence. But we've seen this coming for a long time. You guys have heard me say it 100 times. We've been in a communist revolution now for probably 20 years, close to 20 years. And it was used to be, we've been in it for a long time, probably since the 50s and the 60s. But it's always been kind of underground. And lately it's been more and more and more overt that there is a growing movement within this country to overthrow the Constitution, do away with the Constitution, and go with some form, whatever form is in the mind of these people that are subverting the country, to have some kind of communist, socialist power structure. And that's what it is, just power structure. So, yeah, thank you. I think so. Let's see, the government thought they were invincible, and that's when Roth played his trap for Michael. Is payback for Mo Green. Yeah. So, like I said, it's not necessarily the differences between Cuba is we have landowners, they didn't. Right? So, yeah, there's a lot of differences. I'm not saying there's a parallel, but the point is that we have a movement, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all these kind of Marxist organizations that are funded by, the usual suspects. And this is what they do. This is all they want to do. I think I don't know if they would do it if they weren't paid, but they're fully committed to it. And things like seeing this woman running with her hand shattered, or that woman, running into the police officer and being shot, or the guy who was fighting with Border Patrol being shot. These are not accidents. They aren't planned events, but these events are counted on. Events like this are counted on by them. And there will be more. And the media follows their playbook and goes along with it. But this is how it happens. And nobody in Cuba at the time would have thought these protesters, this guy Fidel Castro, he's just a guy in the mountains. And he certainly didn't have the majority of support, but the support he had was from people who were willing to grab grenades and kill themselves along with a police captain or whatever it is, or army commander. So it's the commitment that is the threat. And I don't know that we have this, the nature of things, that when you have a good life, when you have a good system of government, it frees you from thinking about concerns of basic life and government and all these things. We have so much affluence. Our system has worked so well that we assume this is the norm in the world, and it's not. And the norm of the world is starting to reassert itself. And I don't know necessarily that we, as normal, we call them normies, whatever, normal American people, are even going to see this. How people see it, I think Trump still has 50% support on this. Half the country is with, what we would maybe call our side. But in the Russian Revolution, I think the Bolsheviks only had 15% support, but they had people who were willing to go all the way with their revolution, and it ended up happening. It didn't matter that they didn't have popular support. They had that kind of commitment to it. And that's what Michael's point was. Hyman Roth asked him, well, what does that mean to you? He says, it means they can win. And Hyman Roth's like, we've had protesters here since the 1920s. He said, it's been 30 years. Yeah, they've been that committed for 30 years. That means they can win. And if you saw the movie later on, they dramatized very well the night that Castro took over and how everybody had to run. They're having this big New Year's party, right? And all of a sudden it's like, hey, they're here and they've taken over. And now we've got to run. So all these mobsters trying to flee Cuba, right? So they didn't think it could happen because it was just a few people. They didn't count on that kind of commitment. So what does that mean for us? What does that have to do, how can we put a Christian spin on this? And that's, let's see, stop sharing here. So that was kind of, there's so many different ways I can go on it, but I wanted to share with you, what is it? Let's see, let me get my act together, see which verse I have a couple verses here to share. And I think, yeah. So let's see. Is it 1 Corinthians or is it Ephesians? Yeah. Let's go 1 Corinthians 1. And I'll bring this up here. Paul is talking, obviously, to a Corinthian church that's pretty dysfunctional and pretty divided. And a little slow today. See if it comes up here. A little trouble. Right, there it is. Okay, let me read this for you. And verse 10. We'll highlight it here. Okay. Okay, having technical problems again, but I'll just read it. I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but should be perfectly united in mind and thought. Okay, so we need to have that single-minded commitment, not only to God, but to each other. Jesus talks about all through the book of John about how our unity and our commitment to each other is going to be what turns the world around. It's going to be what tells the world that, first of all, that Christ sent him, or that God sent Jesus into the world. They will be looking at us being so committed. Like we can look at, we could look at these people and dismiss them because they're a small minority, but it's their commitment and their total unity in what they're doing. They're following the playbook. We talked about this a couple of weeks, last week. There's the communist playbook and it's this communist game plan, right? They're executing the game plan because then they were 100% committed, paid or not. Okay. We've had 2 people on their side killed doing what they're fully committed to do. And one other woman nearly blew her hand off being committed to what they're doing. So we as a country need to figure out how well committed are we to our Constitution and to our way of government, and see them for the threat they are. Just like Cuba didn't see these people for the threat they are. And in the Christian sense, these are the same people that rushed in and disrupted a church service, Christian church service, because that's part of their game plan. That's part of their, that's the playbook. This is what you do. And they count on somebody in that church to go off on them in some way, right? It's going to happen again. It's going to happen at one of our churches outside of Minnesota. This is going to continue to grow because when you have a movement like this that has people so committed that they will get in front of, they will ram into a policeman with their cruiser, or they will to jump into a fight, to protect who? To protect these illegal immigrants who are defrauding the government, right? Or who are rapists or whatever you want to call it. That's all secondary to them. The main thing is this is a committed, fully committed life effort for them. So that's going to be the commitment, not only for our country, but it's also going to be a commitment to us as Christians. Okay. How well are we committed, or how deeply are we committed? And are we going to agree with one another? and have no divisions among us, like this verse says. And can we be perfectly united in mind and thought? Can we stand up against what's coming at us? We'll see. Okay. Chance of winning is always worth the commitment. Okay. Look at the salvation of Christ. He went all the way. Yeah. And Christ is supposed to be our example. Castro was an atheist and a dictator the left dreams of. They will have to redirect their hate soon. Okay. Yeah. And this is their commitment. Their commitment is to this worldly institution, this dominion of communism that, in the end, we know we'll lose. Just like I told you that story of me at the communist border of Romania 45 years ago. Okay. And how God showed me very plain, obvious thing. These are unwashed Philistines who dare to defy the armies of the living God. This is no threat to us in the eternal sense. In the temporal sense, yes. In the eternal sense, it's not. So the cause of these people in Minnesota is wood, hay, and stuff. It's going to burn, and it's an affront to God. But in the meantime, how we react to it is the key. How are we going to react to this? Are we going to let this split us apart as Christians? Or are we going to let this split us apart as Americans? I don't know, but the kind of commitment we have on display is the kind of commitment that does tear apart countries and tear apart churches. So, as I always say, we need to start talking about this, and we're not. So we talk about it here. I talk about it here. This is kind of my catharsis. This is my therapy to get this out. And thanks. And we have you guys to listen to me, which I'm eternally grateful for. So I want to get a little bit into, into the AI and the layoffs that are happening. I saw that today, this morning, Dow Chemical, I think, is laying off 4,500 people with AI. I know that Nike said they were laying off a bunch of people, again, with AI. And I think Amazon had some more layoffs. So people are starting to realize that this is happening faster than we can get a hold of. It's something I talked about last week, how the communism being a satanic philosophy that seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And it's the destruction part of it. I'm almost beginning to be a little conspiratorial thing about the developers of AI. That whole world is pretty far left anyways, with guys like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, very left-wing guys. And I'm almost beginning to get a paranoid conspiracy theory in my mind that maybe AI might be there might be a connection here, because it might be this part of this grand tool of Satan, along with Marxism, cultural Marxism, the unrest that we have here. The thief comes in to steal, kill, and destroy, and AI is going to destroy. This could be a very destructive force. People talk about AI being a very disruptive force, and typically new technologies are disruptive to societies. But when you talk about something that's going to take away the goal for it is to take away all human work and have it to where humans don't have to do any work at all, either through, intellectual work or even physical work through robotics and, nanotechnology, whatever it is. That's destroying the basis of it's destroying the whole work ethic of a society. And it's happening very fast. So we've got kind of these twin things happening, or two aspects of the same type of destructive forces combining together. They're going to combine together in the next few years of this growing Marxist communist insurgency and this destructive force of AI coming in and destroying jobs and destroying people's ability to work. with no really alternative for people like that. Any other field that they can get into is eventually going to be taken over by AI anyways. So people are talking about a universal basic income, which is a very, very socialist Marxist concept of the government taxing the AI users and giving people money because there's nothing for them to do. There's no way to earn their money. So all of a sudden the state is going to own more and more of the means of production or the economy, the economic means, right? So we have this coming, and again, it's something that everybody pretty much agrees, whatever happens with AI, it's got a 25% chance of destroying everything, including us. It's got a pretty much 100% chance of being a very disruptive and destructive force in society that will turn our society over at the very basic level, at the very Protestant work ethic that we're based on, that everybody has a job to do in society and everybody needs to be a productive member of society, contributing in some sense of human work. And if that's taken over completely by artificial intelligence, how do we just flip the switch and on one of the very basic, again, foundations of our society that has just been completely ripped apart? That foundation, one of those bearing walls is about to be knocked out, and that of work. How do we deal with all this disruption that's coming as Christians and as Americans? It's increasingly something I'm going to be talking about on this show. It seems to be the niche of this show. One of the niches of this show is to talk about this, because it doesn't seem that in our churches there's much discussion about this. It's something that I think most churches and most evangelical pastors, at least, are afraid to touch. And again, evangelicalism is my world, so that's all I know. That can comment on intelligently. AI is subject to garbage in, garbage out. Hey, Bergie. Jesus is prophesied to return as a thief of the night. Yeah. And it is the garbage in, garbage out. If you see a lot of when ChatGPT first came out, and it got a lot of news that people typed in, hey, show me images of the founding fathers. And ChatGPT produced these images of people of color of all stripes being the founding fathers, which shows you there was a lot of garbage programmed into AI. Okay. It's at its very basic level, its very first level, it was things like DEI and all these other far left ideas were entered into it. It was put into it. And so it's not a neutral, AI is not a neutral platform. So, Lucas, the video game world is an open platform to making money. You pay real money for in-game currencies. Why not develop a system where it's reversible to where you can withdraw money from the game? I don't know. You'd have to expand on that one a little bit. But again, are we going to all exist in a video game? Is everything going to be digitized in our lives? Since AI, we have a digital ruling entity that's doing all our work for us. It's either a digital slave for all of us, or it's a digital master. It's going to be one or the other. So Lucas, I think Lucas might be on to something here. The true step forward is a step backwards, back to homeschooling, home churches, community gardens, take back control of our lives. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the more technically advanced you get, the more advantageous it is to go in reverse, so this, again, we could keep going on and on about this subject, but this is, what I see coming, and everybody should see it coming. We have this happening in our society. The people that are fomenting the discord in our society are very committed to it. How committed are we to standing for what we have? We have a God who is in control. We're on the winning team. Will we make sure that we're always on his side? So that's it. Boy, that went really fast. Half hour's up. I will be on with Ben tomorrow talking more about this. I think we'll be focusing on what's going on up in Minnesota. So I will see you then. Thanks for listening as always. Thanks for the good comments, guys. All right. See you later.